Days before you die, when no one knows you will die, your heart stops pumping blood to the tips of your fingers. It is needed elsewhere, in your head, at the core of your body, where your lungs are, your heart, your liver. The blood also withdraws from the tips of the toes. Your feet are getting cold. Your breath flattens. Senses fade. Your body initiates the parting with life. Dying is a dynamic process, as unique as life itself. In this text, I quote parts of the SZ article How Dying Works at the very end of June 17th, 2016. Hello, I am Noah, 20 years old and a student. I would like to share my experience in palliative care with you. My experiences with dying and death. Social work in the hospital. I had no idea it existed. In my mind, the staff in a hospital consisted of doctors and nurses. Then maybe 2 to 3 secretaries and 2 to 3 members of cleaning staff. That's it. So I didn't know what to expect from my internship, let alone from the palliative care unit. I am the resurrection. I am life. Everyone who believes in me will have life, even if they die. John 11:25. I was afraid of this day, the day when I will see the first dead person. I knew that day would come, but I didn't know how soon it would come. No one can say how they will feel, what it really does to a person to see a lifeless body for the first time. I imagined all kinds of scenarios in advance. Especially here in palliative care, where you can often witness a person's last days, to see how, under certain circumstances, life fades from a body day by day. Maybe I will bond with the patients. Maybe I manage to keep my distance because of the work environment. Monday morning, 9 o'clock. We went on rounds, as we do every morning. As we reached about half of the patients, I see a physiotherapy student walking into the patient's room across the hall. Shortly after she walks back out, I think she's dead. You can see it in her eyes. She was beside herself, not knowing what to do. My supervisor and I go to her and look into the patient's room. I felt my legs go limp. I felt nauseous. I paused in the doorway. I did not want to take another step. The physiotherapist is also in the room. While my supervisor checks the patient's pulse, the physiotherapist turns away. She gets teary-eyed and sits down. What must be going on in her head right now? How does one feel who has just found a dead person for the first time? How would I feel? How would you feel? The room was cold. The window was slightly open, and the curtains moved gently with the wind. For a moment, everything stood still. I saw the old lady in bed, peacefully asleep. There's nothing that can replace the absence of a loved one. The more beautiful and full the memory, the harder the separation. But gratitude gives quite joy in grief. One carries the beauty of the past like a precious gift. Dietrich Bonhoeffer. It's hard to talk about dying, but it's worth it, because silence is more painful than speaking. As long as we have life, we are living to the Lord. Or if we give up our life, it is to the Lord. So if we are living, or if our life comes to an end, we are the Lord's. Romans 14:8. A wonderful person. I don't really know him, and yet I feel I have met him. I find myself at his bedside with his wife. She has tears in her eyes. I sit across from her. Her husband lies between us. This situation took a lot out of me. What I didn't know yet is that he will pass away in a few hours. Already during rounds could we observe his declining condition. The doctors also confirmed my suspicion. Everything points to a kidney failure. We suspect it won't be long. I visited him last week. Back then, he was in much better condition. I would like to see him again. But why? Isn't that weird? I don't know him, and he doesn't know me. And besides, his wife is already in the room. So why do I want to see him? I knew this man in this room is going to die soon. And sitting next to him is his wife, who is exhausted. And I seriously want to interfere? I picture the worst things in my head. What if it escalates? What if the wife asks me what I'm doing here? What if I'm completely overwhelmed by the situation? Would I want that? A stranger in the room with me? As a relative, how would I feel in such a situation? How would you feel? So I walked down the hall to room number 138. I paused in front of the closed door. I tried to hear something from outside the room. Any sign, so that I could better assess the situation behind the door. An uneasy feeling spread through my stomach. I took a deep breath in and out, disinfected my hands, and knocked on the door. His wife and a friend are sitting by his bed with their backs to the door. Hello, I'm Noah Löbermann from Social Services. Your husband has kind of grown on me over the past few days. May I join you? I quickly reconsider my words. Were those the right words? Are there even right words in such a situation? The wife's empty, teary eyes look at me. I was afraid. Against all expectations, she says, "Yes, please. I can't handle being alone with him anymore. Sit down and stay." I was relieved. I felt like I did something right. Just my being there and my interest in her husband seemed to help her. Prison without bars. That's how she described her time with him. For 5 years, a prison without bars. She speaks of his illness. In the beginning, he still cooked for her at home. But for 3.5 years, he has been in bed. First at home, since a few months, now in the hospital. What must he have done to suffer for so long? I don't understand, she says to me. Unsettled, I repeat the goal of our treatment. We are doing our best to make sure he doesn't suffer. His face indicates that he is not suffering. I also assure her that even though he is asleep and no longer speaking, he is aware of more than we think. You sleep at night, you sleep during the day. Your sense of time has slipped away, your consciousness drifts. To those around you, it seems as if you are harder and harder to wake up from your sleep. As you drink less and less, your body slips into a state of dehydration that many doctors in palliative care units consider natural for the dying. Your pulse slows down. You urinate less. You're less likely to feel nauseous, less likely to vomit. Your body releases neurotransmitters that dull the pain. Dawn overcomes you. It is hardly possible to focus your eyes. That doesn't mean you lose all consciousness. Your skin still senses touch, and your ear can still hear. Is he really suffering? The man. Is dying painful? For some, it takes longer, and for some, shorter. His wife recounts friends and relatives who go in one fell swoop or peacefully fall asleep. Why can't that happen to him? I am speechless. I didn't expect it to happen. It is bad when you realize You have lived and now you are going to die. It is worse when you realize you didn't live and now you have to die. But this man lived, and he will live on, in thoughts. We must be content with the knowledge that loved ones who are dead can be more present and alive to us than any living person. Hermann Hesse. Hearing the next day that he died that very night was not easy for me. I immediately thought of his wife, how she would feel now. Was she relieved? Her husband no longer had to suffer. Was she there? Was I able to help her with the conversation yesterday?